church every Sunday. Online or in the sanctuary. Receiving a word from the Lord to uplift my spirits. But what I really need to know is how to make it through the week. I need to know how to handle me. Someone please help me. Church. What's really going on? After church. Monday to Sunday morning. After church. Benediction is said. Please keep it real with me. After church. Don't worry, don't fret. After church. I think we found an outlet. After church. I'm gonna keep it real with you. P-Rod and Lady Reed. After church. After church.
What's up, everybody? After church again today. We got a few more people. We got a couple of things we want to talk about. Of course, I got my wonderful wife, Lady Reed, holler at him. Yep. Then I brought my daughter, Rob, in here. What's up? We got a few things we're going to talk about today. Just kind of sort of in our world, we try to do after church. After church is really about what happens real life after the benediction. You know, when you really got to go home and deal with whatever it is. That's the real thing about it, the balance of life and the whole nine. We were kind of talking a little bit ago when they were trying to fix my camera, fix my mic and all that stuff. That's what after church, there's a whole bunch of stuff come with this. We were talking a little bit about just the environment we're in right now as far as, you know, our backgrounds and how we relate to certain things, particularly, you know, home backgrounds with single parents, so on and so forth, and how we adjusted our lives in this different scenario and how we live and how we look. So I brought them in because I'll talk about my life a little bit after the fact because mine is a little bit different. I had everything in place. Everything is not always in place. A lot of people deal with that. So if you're a single parent, call somebody, tell them this is going to be good. If you came up in a situation you wasn't sure about, check this out. We're just going to kind of be real about where we are. Not necessarily all the answers, but we'll at least give you some information. And so I'm going to kind of launch into this and kind of ask them a couple of questions and we'll do a couple of things. What kind of background did you come from, Lady Reed?
I came from I had two sides of it. I was a child with a stepfather in the home for a time, and then by the time I went to high school, my parents separated and eventually divorced. So I went from a two-parent home to a single-parent home. And as a single parent, I watched my mother work.
We'll get back to that. I just want to get the background to it. Okay. So what was your deal?
My parents were married, so I grew up until middle school, or let's say ninth grade, with both parents in the house, and then it moved into a single parent home.
Okay, and then all of my life, I had a mother and a father in the house, with everything. I've always seen the full unit together. And one of the reasons we're talking is because those type lives, each life has its different shapes, its different directions, its different roads. And sometimes in just everyday life, we had to deal with certain things that reflect where we came from and then adjustments we had to make. And so, like Lady Marie was getting ready to talk about, what was different about just not having the stepfather and everybody all together the whole time and that kind of thing?
The difference was not always having a parent home. When it was a two-parent home, when one was out working, the other one was home. When it became a single-parent home, my mom, of course, had to take on a little bit more work time, so she wasn't there as often. So while she's working, of course, a parent is not home. But we were teenagers. I had a sister that was in college, so me and her are about a year apart. So I became kind of the caretaker at home with the younger brother while my mother was at work. So things had to go on at home. So I took that responsibility as she was working outside.
Okay. And what's the difference? And started right. It may have broke up. Whatever. How it went. What difference is that? How was it?
It would probably be easier to say that it was. It was pretty much the same adjustment.
Okay.
But when my parents were together, my dad worked all the time.
Okay.
So even during the day when we were home or when we got home from school and things like that, it was still just us. So in that sense, it didn't change so much because both parents worked, and there were not so much times where my mom was there and my dad was working, or my dad was working and my mom was there. Both parents worked. So there were a lot of times when we were there alone, And I'm the oldest, so I took care of my brother and my sister.
That's interesting. That's interesting. That's interesting. Two things. For those of you who are watching who know us, you know us. Okay, so you're hearing her talk about maybe a little difference. Like, I thought that was her dad. I thought that was her mom. See, this is the life that we in. This is my godchild, but it's my child. We pretty much embrace each other, bloodlines. There's no conflicts or anything like that. It's like this is real blood. So when y'all think we be tripping, we for real. It's a very godly, divinely, bloodly, a whole bunch of stuff, different situation right here. But something was just said that I think is interesting. You, who are not the oldest, correct?
Correct.
Okay. You kind of sort of stepped in and became the independent person who started kind of overseeing. You, who is the oldest, all of a sudden, you stepped in and kind of sort of took that responsibility role. What's the difference? I mean, how was it? Why were you not being the oldest? Why did you assume that responsibility? What happened?
It's interesting when you are in certain circumstances. God kind of, and I wouldn't given God this kind of credit before, but you kind of conform to whatever you got to do. It's called survival. And when not being the oldest, I just seen what had to happen. Watch what had to happen, and you just kind of step into the role. I had to get a job. I had to.
What age? Where did you get the job?
I got the job in 11th grade, so I guess I was somewhere around 15 or 16. 16, I think.
Okay.
Then when they would give you jobs, and my money was just as important as the money that my mom brought home. So I had to take care of bills.
Put everything together to make it all work.
We had to budget. I mean, for what we knew a budget to be. We just had to meet those kind of obligations. So you just kind of put the hat on and do what you got to do, hit the floor running.
What about you?
Mostly the same.
What's the age difference in you and your sibling?
My brother and I are just like a year apart.
Okay.
And then my sister is 8 years younger than my brother and I.
Okay.
So, I think the same thing when you're raised as a close-knit family, you don't allow things to drop or to slip.
Okay.
So if you are in any way capable, you step into the spot that, if somebody else is missing, somebody goes off to college, somebody else is not in the home anymore, you step in and everybody kind of bond together to try to make it all go and make it all work. So, I became, when my mom was away from the house, I was the parent. I cooked, I cleaned, I took care of my brother and my sister. I worked when I, was a teenager in high school, and my mom taught us, she gave us responsibilities. So I, as well as my brother, when he turned 16, got a job, and we paid bills and we made stuff happen.
And it was slightly different in my world, because I guess when my parents, they were together, they raised us together. I have an older brother, I have an older sister. I'm the baby of the family, and it was a little different. Now, we all had our own responsibilities within the house, but when it came to necessarily going out to work early or making sure things happen, my mom was a school teacher. She went out to work. My father worked with the railroad. The hours were different, but we did a lot of things together as families. We went on vacations as families. We ate together as families, and so it trained my mind a certain type of way. Her situation trained her a different way. Her situation the same. It's important. It's important. Why is that? Because one of the situations you have to understand that adversity happens in life, and everybody's background, even though your beginning is small, it can change in the latter sense. But there's a shaping process that goes in this process.
Right.
But the deal is, God equips you. Ain't not even saved, not even realizing He's doing it, but there's an adaptability that's built in within us that helps us to move into certain situations. So it shapes kind of our views on life. It shapes the way we go about things. I would consider myself having a wholesome life, and in a different situation, I'm being real. If I saw their situation and I didn't really know them, I would have said, well, they had a disadvantage. Well, it may appear to have been a disadvantage, but actually there was a lot of advantages here, because you became more independent earlier, you became stronger earlier, you saw different things, you realized it takes survival. I did the same thing, but I got a job when I was in high school and I moved forward, but it just didn't have the same effect. And so that stuff starts to shape your mindset on how things happen, and it shapes how you do things in life. Now,
That's right.
Let's fast forward a little bit to see where we are now. We're here now. when you and I first got married, well, let me start with Robin. When we met, I realized, we learned about the situation. You kind of came in this situation, and things have happened over the course of years. And now you sit here as a single parent. Single parent. Well, let's just deal with where we are right now with the transitions we're having in this crisis. Your thought process has to be different. With the school transitions, thought process has to be different. How is your background now affected this, and how is it being a single parent? For those single parents who are watching us who have had to deal with virtual school and all the adjustments that I can't relate to, but you can. What's up?
Oh, that's a loaded question.
Yeah,
you asked a lot of stuff in that.
Yeah. Go for it.
Well, being a single parent is heavy. It's not a lightweight, I won't say that some people say I'm the mama and the dad. I'm not the mama and the daddy. I'm Chris's mother. And I put all of every move I make, every step, every day, everything that I do is centered around providing for him, making sure that he's taken care of, he has the things that he needs, he gets to where he needs to get to, he accomplishes the things during the course of his day that he needs to accomplish, as well as I accomplish the things I need to accomplish. So that's number one. Like, I'm always thinking about, okay, I got to make this happen. I keep a loaded schedule.
So let me ask you this. It's good because when they came up with the whole pandemic and then we had school situation and your views on whether you wanted to send your child to school or him learn virtually, but yet you still have to work and make sure that happens, it's just you and him in the home. What was your thoughts in that area? And how has that been?
I'm going to be honest with you. To start it all off, there was no way that I really wanted to send Chris back into the school system. I just think it's crazy out there right now. And so I had to rely on my support system. So we sat down and talked about it. Yeah. I was like, hey, y'all, what do you think about, this and how can we make this work? And so we sat down and we talked about it. I didn't want him to go to school. So we were waiting to see and following every post that the Board of Education posts, keeping up with all of the information. That stuff is important. You cannot let things slip like that because it will determine, what options you have, what you have available, and you have to consider time frames because there are deadlines. And when you don't meet deadlines, your child suffers. Not just you, but, and so everybody's not just going to stop at the drop of a dime and open a door for you and make things happen. So you need to meet deadlines. So considering everything, we talked about whether or not it was possible for Chris to stay here. Why? Because I work every day, so I have to do that too. In addition to making sure that he gets an education. So I had to buy a computer. We had to figure out what was going to work here. Now
I'm gonna spurt at you right now, okay? So you're having to move into somewhat of a responsibility early as a teenager when your mom had to work, your dad had to work and do things. What it sounds like is survival mode was put into you then, not necessarily just surviving, but you immediately start thinking, okay, how do I make this work? How do I make that work? That's a big deal. That's a big deal because sometimes people don't really understand what's in them until you put in a crisis to realize the training that God gave you and you didn't even know you were being trained. Then all of a sudden you were helping to raise kids and changing diapers and so on and so forth and realizing, okay, the bills got to be paid. That's why mom and dad are going out to work. And the kids still got to be taken care of. That's why that's happening. So here are my thoughts. My first thought is not to break down. That wasn't your first thought. No. It's like, I'm in this. I got to go get it. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And that's the same kind of thing you deal with because I can see it in you. You're this person. One of the things we deal with what I deal with her is she's always going. She's always trying to take care of everybody, all the kids, everything. And that's the mentality. As much as I try to say, you got to slow down because we got to be here a long time, that's in you. Why is that drive in you? That's a part of what your lifestyle or what you came up made you be pushed into. Can you see what I'm saying?
That's true. It was built in me and I didn't realize it. You look at a lot of things in retrospect that were put into you because in a moment in your life you look and say, why am I like this? And those kind of things were put in me because as a single parent, you have nobody to do a catch-all. You have nobody to get your back. I mean, as far as not your support system, but like a husband being in a home, if you missing something somewhere, nobody's right there on the scene to say, hey, you got to close this gap because, you know, this is missing. So it's good to have a good support system. That's something I didn't really see with my mom. She just had to pick up every piece because we transitioned into that. And you don't have a moment to go. If she did that, I have no idea if she went in her room and had a breakdown moment and cried or whatever. Maybe she did with the Lord. I saw it in church when she went to church because we were a church-going family. She kept that part of her life going strong, and she just cried out. And every now and then I would look over like, my God, what is going on? But I guess that was her, you know, time to just really seek God and ask for help. But you don't have time to take off. You have to pick up. You have to pick up all the loose ends, as much of them as you can. Now, one thing she did do, she said, I saw her pray. I saw her pray and ask God for help. I didn't really hear the extent of her prayer, but I saw her pray. So she knew, and she wasn't totally what I would call sold out to the Lord, but she knew enough about God to know I can't do this by myself. I have to ask for help. Even though I don't have physical help in front of me, I know I got help that's standing alongside of me that I can't see, and my help comes from God.
I want to say this because we're going to have to end this session pretty soon. We're going to do a part 2 to it. We got to do this. But what she just said is something. This is why I want you to bring as many single parents and people who have issues within their families and that kind of thing, and let them hear and see this, because what we're trying to do is be as real about this, about life as we can. And sometimes we don't realize how God literally puts us in situations that will develop us for what the future holds for us. There's strong women and strong men and strong single parents and strong families out there that don't necessarily have a father in the home or don't necessarily have a mom in the home. It doesn't mean it just has to fall apart, but you got to have what she just said, prayer. You got to have a foundation, and you got to know that God is looking out for you. Even though sometimes you feel like it's a struggle, it's hard, and maybe there was mistakes you made or something you had nothing to do with, or just relationships that didn't work, divorces, all that kind of stuff that changed your livelihood, that if you had your rathers, you wouldn't be there.
That's right.
But God is in control. He's always known where you would be, and he always provides a grace and an escape to do it. And so prayer and understanding that God trains you and helps you understand. Now we're going to come back and we're going to talk about maybe some of the things that we don't hear, some of the silent moments, some of the things of, now, can I really do it? And those things that may happen in your life at times, and you really can't share it with everybody because it's a moment that you got to push through. So we want to encourage you to maintain that level of understanding and pray and continue to seek God as to how to handle your situation. And if you've never known God, sometimes you just have to just say, Lord, help me. Give me direction. And he sends, you'll find out that there's a village out there that can help you. But these are issues that people face every single day, especially where we are right now. In the middle of a pandemic, we're trying to keep people alive. We're trying to get our kids educated. We're trying to keep money. We're trying to supply all of those different things. And here we are trying to figure it out day by day. But I'm telling you something. He built you for it. You can handle it. You can come out stronger, and you don't have to fail anywhere. Yes. We'll be back. I want to talk. Keep Rob back in here, Lady Maria in here. But this has been good. This is just part 1. I promise you part 2 is coming good. But whatever you do, know you can come out stronger, and know that God knows where you are. You are not forgotten. Yes. Thank you for hitting us up on After Church. We'll be back with you real soon. God bless you, family. Worship Center. We love you. Stay strong. Thank y'all so much. Yes. I believe this is good. Remember, we're coming back real soon and give you the second part of it. I believe it's going to be really good. God bless you.
God bless you.
I'm gonna keep it real with you. P-Rod and Lady.